Research Article 1, Civil Rights Leader Ida B. Wells. Early life. Ida Bell Wells was born a slave in 1862. She was the oldest daughter of James and Lizzie Wells. About 6 months after her birth, then President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It freed the slaves across the country. The Wells family, along with the rest of the slaves in the South, gained their liberty. However, as African Americans in Mississippi, they faced discrimination and were treated very badly. Wells' father, James, helped start Shaw University. It was a school for newly freed slaves and is now called Rust College. Wells went to school there but had to quit at the age of 16. Both her parents and one of her siblings died of yellow fever. Wells had to care for her other siblings and take a job as a teacher. Later, Wells moved with her sisters to Memphis, Tennessee to live with an aunt. Wells continued her education at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. Journalist and activist. In May 1884, Wells bought a train ticket to Nashville. She became outraged when the train crew ordered her to move to the car for African Americans. At the time, Blacks had to sit in separate sections and go to separate schools. Wells refused to move. The crew forced her to get off the train. The incident led her to write about how Blacks are treated in the South. Wells eventually became an owner of 2 newspapers. While working as a journalist and publisher, Wells also taught in a segregated school. The city's Blacks-only schools were in very bad condition, and she spoke out against it. In 1891, she was fired from her job. In 1892, 3 African-American men opened a grocery store in Memphis. It took away customers from a nearby store owned by whites. One night, the blacks were guarding their store and shot several white people who attacked them. They were arrested and taken to jail. A lynch mob took them from the jail and killed them. These killings angered Wells. She wrote articles that spoke out against the lynching of her friend and other African Americans. She put her own life at risk to spend 2 months traveling in the South to gather information on lynchings. A mob of white people stormed the office of her newspaper. They destroyed all of her equipment. She was not there at the time, but she was warned that she would be killed if she returned. In 1895, Wells married a man named Fernandez Barnett. The couple had 4 children together, but she still continued her work as an activist. In 1898, Wells brought her anti-lynching efforts to the White House. She led a protest in Washington, D.C., and asked the president to make changes. Later in her career, Wells started several civil rights groups. In 1896, she formed the National Association of Colored Women. She also started the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, commonly known as the NAACP. She opened the first African-American kindergarten in her community and fought for women's rights to vote. Women did not win the right to vote in the United States until 1920. Ida B. Wells died of kidney disease on March 25, 1931, in Chicago. She was 69 years old. Through her writing, speeches, and protests, Wells fought against discrimination. She ignored the danger to herself. Wells once said, "I felt that one had better die fighting against injustice than to die like a dog or a rat in a trap."